Welcome back to the news today. Well, looking to my left and right, I can only draw one conclusion. It's time to talk Israeli politics. A little early this week, but the dust never seems to settle in Jerusalem. Joining me to discuss, as usual, are Dr. Hani Zubeida, Chair of Political Science Department at the Israel Valley Academic College. Good evening, Dr. Zubeida.
Good evening, Ayman.
And diplomatic correspondent for the news today, Eli Hochenberg. Good evening, Eli.
Good evening. We can talk about other things as well, you know. It's just that politics in Israel is always...
hectic and interesting.
Yeah,
Always hectic
busy.
and interesting, especially when we look at Education Minister Naftali Bennett and Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon. They are still exchanging blows.
Yeah, well, it started at the INSS a week ago, and we spoke about this. One person called the other non-reliable and very problematic. The other person called the other one, well, Bogi called Bennett, childish and looking for likes on Facebook. Today, they took it to the next level. Today, what happened is that literally there's a rift and nobody can hide this anymore. Today, it moved from the negotiations in speeches to actual politics in terms that literally Bennett, after on the hills, it should be said, on the hills of Oren Chazan and Bezalel Smotrich, two parliament members who called Bogi extreme left because he took settlers out of a house in Hebron, in Khalil, and today he named him leftist and non-reliable as the security minister of Israel.
And the thing is that the Bennett camp is now blaming Moshe Ya'alon, defense minister, that he has been sending text messages, saying, talking about how much Ya'alon is a great defense minister and how much Bennett is basically nothing and all, only fuss and buzz. And the thing is that it's very clear now that Naftali Bennett does not want to be the Minister of Education. He didn't want this post to begin with. During the coalition negotiations, when he managed to get the Justice Ministry to his party, he was very much frustrated. It will not be him to serve in this post after he had to commit to the post of as the Minister of Education. And Bennett is definitely trying to make himself look like he is the next defense for a defense minister, Mr. Security, what Netanyahu used to had this title for a while now. Bennett wants to be the next Mr. Security of Israel.
Well, speaking of his function as the Minister of Education, he's also embroiled in a controversy over a new textbook in Israel.
What we call the citizenship book studies. But on the same note, it should be said that he's eyeing the foreign ministry as well. He's not just eyeing the defense ministry. He would like to get into the foreign ministry, but that would cause problems with Sarah Netanyahu. As for the textbook, he commissioned a new textbook for the studies of citizenship in Israel. This textbook is very controversial. We had, with the previous education minister, Gideon Sa'ar, a huge issue with the textbook. One textbook was disqualified and was taken out from the curriculum. The next book, this book that we're talking about, a committee was assembled. In the committee were a lot of academians, and one of them was Professor Tamar Herman from the Open University in Israel. And she got the textbook, and today she was interviewed saying that she wrote a report, 11 pages report on the textbook. And when she got the textbook, it wasn't rectified. It was even more to the right.
The claims are exactly that the textbook is very much tilted to the right. Things such as that the murder of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin wasn't a result of incitement, etc., etc. And this is, relates to a bigger battle we see in Israel in the last couple of years, namely after the last elections between left and right. And there is no field that is not being attacked in this regard. And we currently see this textbook, but we see it coming into expression in other fields, such as culture, for example.
Just a small note beforehand, before we go to the culture. I think it's not a battle over education. It's a battle over socialization. This is a battle over the way children are going to be socialized into the nation of Israel as a Jewish.
Is this Bennett's agenda, you would say?
I would say that while he does not, he really resents the fact that he's the education minister. He would like to use it to catapult as much support as he can get and to rally as much for his agenda versus other agendas. while he sees himself temporary in that ministry, he would like in the meantime to get as much as he can from the ministry. And I think this is one of the cornerstones, in his opinion, as to the next generation of Israelis that he's going to...
The basic thing is that the right wing in Israel has felt for many years that it's being oppressed and depressed and neglected. And now when we have a very right wing coalition, this is what we see, this sort of rise of the right wing in Israel.
And Ellie, speaking of things leaning to the right, as you mentioned, supposedly another controversy from Minister of Culture Miri Regev and her basically socialization or her view on artists in Israel, especially theater.
Well, she has a very, very tangled relationship with Israeli artists since the moment she got this post. She called them before ungrateful and whiny, and now we're talking about a new motion that has not been put forward yet, but we're talking about no loyalty, no budget. Very simple. If artists or institutions will not act according, to state rules, now we can debate what are state rules. Will show too much criticism of the state of Israel. They will not receive funds, and this is something, of course, the Israeli artists highly object.
Has Miri Regev in fact made these statements?
Well, according to the Ministry of Education, as much as we got details during the last few hours, there is no legislation planned for this. Now, however, on the other hand, you don't need legislation in order to somehow substantiate criteria for funding for the arts in Israel. It is well known that there is a committee, the Higher Committee of Arts in Israel, and the committee has the ability to sanction new criteria for funding. Among these criteria, as was said in the newspaper, but no confirmation from the Ministry of Culture, loyalty in terms of dignifying the symbols, the official symbols of the State of Israel. We had a case of somebody doing their own things on the Israeli flag, and they didn't like it. She was investigated by the police, and now they're saying they want to trial her. They want to put her to trial. On the other hand, the issues of the double loyalty of the Palestinian citizens, and that's a major issue. Whether the Arab citizens, the Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel, will be loyal to the State of Israel or to the Palestinian side, and that's a major issue. Up to this point, while nothing was approved from the Ministry of Culture, we know that this is a huge issue and everybody's debating on it. And this, again, goes back to what Eli said, the disenfranchisement of the right in Israel. They feel that it's their time to come up with new agenda. While I think, obviously, each and every politician who comes into power would like to somehow promote their own agenda, I think this is a bit too much if we rack everything up in the same corner.
Well, we discussed Miri Regev, Moshe Ya'alon, and Naftali Bennett. I'm ready for some news from the opposition in Israel, Eli.
Not so good news for the Israeli left. Isaac Herzog has been frustrating many people and leaders among the Israeli left, and it seems that now he's crossing the lines and really getting on the nerves of many of the leftist leaders. And this week we hear a lot of criticism from within the Zionist camp or the Labor Party and the way Herzog is functioning. They're claiming he's too much leaning to the right, too much sounds like Benjamin Netanyahu, and saying that he's a pale imitation of Netanyahu himself. And if he wants to be a right-wing leader, then we already have a better one. And I think it's inevitable that he will be replaced up until the next election.
Is it inevitable?
Well, it's not inevitable, but it's most likely. The likelihood of changing the heads of the Labour Party is now getting larger and larger. There's a joke among the Labour Party that they're planning a trade. They're going to get Boogie Alon and they're going to give Bougie to the Likud.
What about Gabi Ashkenazi?
On a serious note,
extremely hot.
Exactly. That's the serious note. The serious note is that if we did not have any golden boys for the Labour Party or the Zionist Union, now we have the new golden boy. Gabi Ashkenazi just got out of a major criminal entanglement, scot-free, literally. No accusations, no court appearance, nothing. Was. Now, Gabi Ashkenazi is now being marked as the number one person. However, and this is huge, however, We have Ron Huldai, who's the mayor of Tel Aviv, also in the race, and we have Sheli Yachimovich. Sheli Yachimovich would like nothing but to see three men competing against her, because it's obvious that they're going to split the votes and she has a chance to win. If it will be only Gabi Ashkenazi, then the story is a whole different. Now, what Bougie is trying to do, Isaac Herzog, he's trying to claim that if the Labour Party would like to regain power and get back on the coalition and not opposition, the only way to do it is the shift towards the right. And he argues that this was exactly what Yitzhak Rabin said and did. Now, there's a huge...
We're left with a reality in which both Yair Lapid, the leader of the centrist party, and Herzog, the leader of the leftist party, are leaning to the right, whereas the left, I'm not sure.
Well, three men might be competing against Sheli Yachimovich, but in this studio, two men are opposing you, Eli Hochenberg, but with a lot of love and respect. Dr. Hani Zubeida and Eli Hochenberg, thank you for joining me again for the wrap-up on Israeli politics.
Thank you for having us.
And we shift from Israel to the U.S., where preparations are in full swing for Super Bowl 50. More than 100 million people are expected to tune in for the game. And as always, they will be treated to more than just football. Yes, those famous commercials, which cost millions of dollars per 30-second slot. ABC News has more.
From date nights and websites to Bud Lights.
Will you get the middle of my back?
There is no middle.
Candy bars and fancy cars, plus movie stars with Pikachu and Tyler, too. The ads slated for Super Bowl 50 shape up to be another elite group, and they'd better be, with 30-second spots on the telecast said to be going for as much as $5 million. Major impact is a must-have.
There are very few places advertisers can go to get a lot of people in one shot, and the Super Bowl is it. Last year, the Super Bowl had a record 114 million viewers. That sort of opportunity simply doesn't exist in this day and age.
Aerosmith's Steven Tyler walking this way for Skittles. Website creator Squarespace nabbing comic duo Key and Peele.
Starring the incomparable Liam Neeson.
And yes, Liam Neeson himself representing for LG Electronics. Soccer great Abby Wambach sings the Mini Cooper's praises, while Christopher Walken weighs in for Kia. Amy Schumer and Seth Rogen are beer bottle buddies, and comic actor T.J. Miller will have his modesty on tap.
It's going to be the greatest Super Bowl commercial of all time. Do you understand?
While three different shot-by-amateurs clips are competing for Doritos' 30-second slot. All of these mini epics eager to get your attention the way Budweiser's Lost Puppy did at Super Bowl 49 last year. So, don't go away.
And we end with the latest in culture news, and I'm joined by I-24 News correspondent Shani Nachshoni. Shani, good evening.
Good evening, Ayman.
Shani, I'm very excited. You're here to tell us about the return of one of my favorite shows, Game of Thrones.
Yes, of course. HBO's Game of Thrones is coming back. We have to wait a little bit longer because they are coming back with the new season only on April 24.
So long.
So long, and we've been waiting for so long so far. And this week they released 3 different teasers, making us viewers think what might happen. So let's see what will happen with the Targaryen family.
Wait.
Yevosak Yorak Mahake Sonyeri Khalesi Vosi.
Wow. Well, Game of Thrones is full of powerful women. And 2 other powerful divas are Beyonce and Adele. And things are heating up there, allegedly.
No, okay, let's just... I'll tell it as it is because there are rumors that Beyonce is postponing the release of her new album because of the hype surrounding Adele. But the cause is actually a good one. Not because she's afraid of anything, but she's a good friend and she wants to honor her and to give her a proper time in the spotlight. Another report that we are hearing this week is from Closer magazine that says that Adele is reaching Beyonce to seek for advice on taking taking her son on tour, because we know that Beyonce traveled all over the world with her daughter, of course, Blue Ivy, and now Adele wants to go on tour as well, and she seeks for advice from Beyonce.
And another diva who's not had a very good week.
A not very good weekend. J-Lo in Vegas, she opened her grand show, and on the last part, the part when she addresses the audience and tells them how much she loves them, a tiny surprise
Let's
regarding
take a
her
look.
outfit. Let's see.
I love you very much. Thank you so much. We can do anything we want. Live it up. So live it up, live it up. Oh, oh. You're so much. I love you very much. Thank you so much. We can do anything we want. Live it up. So live it up, live it up. Oh.
Shani Nachshani, I'm glad that things like this don't happen in this studio, but thank you for bringing
You're not
us
doing
this.
the part where you bend and...
Not this
No?
time, not this
time?
show, not this show. Shani Nachshani, thank you very much. The news today is done for tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Join us then from the Jaffa Port. Thank you for being with us. Good night.